Well, hello everybody, and we are talking this afternoon about the Haftorah for Shabbat Chanukah, which is coming up pretty close. Can I just remind everybody, our subscribers, our viewers, and future viewers and subscribers, that we did 2 presentations last year around Chanukah. Mark and I did a presentation as a workshop showing you how to deal with Chanukah, not how to eat your donuts and latkes, that's up to you. And also the history and theories behind it all. So if you go back on the video YouTube, you will find those 2 there, and they may be a good prompt as we come towards the festival.
Yeah, and what I'll do also is I'll put a link underneath so they'll be able to see them straight away.
Fantastic.
Just making life easier for our viewers.
Wonderful, that's a good idea. We're going to be talking about Chanukah.
That's very interesting. So please remind me what the word Chanukah means.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think there are 2 potential answers to that. Obviously, there'd have to be, wouldn't there? Okay, so the root of the word Chanukah is dedication, because of course Chanukah time marks the rededication of the Beis Hamikdash, the temple. However, it can be seen in another way. And if you take the word Chanukah, Chof Nen Nun Vov Chof Hey, or something like that, you can read it as Chonu Chof Hey, which means they rested on the 25th. And the Hashmonaim, the Hasmoneans, rested from battle on the 25th of Kislev, when they got back into the Beis Hamikdash and set about rededicating it.
Right.
So, as always, there's more than one answer. Very good question. Something to sort of bear in mind, because, of course, they'd been at war with the Greeks and whoever it was, and finally they overcame the enemy.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so this special Haftorah, before you ask me, I'm ready with an answer as to where it comes from, because I know you'll ask me, and it comes from the Book of Zecharia, who was one of the trials of the prophets. Chapter 2, 14, to chapter 4, 7. Go away, you can test me on it, check it up in the Tanakh. And what the Haftorah deals with, it relates to the rebuilding of the temple after the first exile, which was the Babylonian exile, which lasted for 70 years.
I seem to recall that this Haftorah appears somewhere else in the year.
Oh, there's no kidding you, is there? My goodness. That's very good. You're absolutely right. It's the same Haftorah that we read on the Seder of Bahaloscha. Bahaloscha appears in the Book of Bamidbar, the Book of Numbers, and is normally around June time in the, what I would call the secular calendar year. So, of course, what's the connection?
Yes.
And the connection is that in Bahaloscha, we read about the completion of the Mishkan,
yes,
the predecessor to the temple, and the making of the original menorah.
Right.
So that's where the connection lies.
You forgot to mention Zechariah. Who was Zechariah?
Right. Well, I did just make a quick allusion to him, but you're quite right to ask me. So if you look in the Tanakh, in the Jewish Bible, you will find that there are 12 prophets. And for anybody who's a bit too clever for themselves, it's Prophets,
right,
because it's much more interesting to look at the law of the prophets than the prophets of the law. So Zecharia was one of the last of what we call the Trei Osa, Trei meaning 2 and Osa meaning 10. And if you put 2 and 10 together, you've got 2 and 10 pence. He was a Cohen, and he returned with the people after the Babylonian exile. And what happened when they got back to Jerusalem was that they found effectively a rubble site of what had been the first Beis Hamikdash. And needless to say, having schlepped back from Bovel, they were very depressed to see the situation. The inspiration from Zecharia and the Book of Zecharia is to say, all right, you can see there's a set of rubble there, but what can it be made into? It can be made into the glory of the second temple.
Right.
And that is what happened. So he, if you like, supplied drive, enthusiasm, inspiration, and it made a big difference to the people, quite obviously. And you can go away and actually read the chapters of the Book of Zecharia, and you can see what's going on. He wrote about 2,500 years ago. Presumably by now the ink has dried. So let's get back to our Haftorah after digressing a little tiny bit. Well, the Haftorah speaks about the joy that will be in Jerusalem when the temple is restored. It looks forward, and the divine presence returns as it was in the time of the first temple. Now, the Haftorah starts with the words, Roni v'simchi bas Sion, sing and be happy or joyous, O daughter of Zion. That's how it starts off. And what Zecharia is saying is, you've got everything to go back to Jerusalem for, everything to look forward to. It's all going to be good. Now, there's another Haftorah, which begins, Roni akora lo yoloda. And you will quickly work out that these two are the inspiration for the two Ronnies. So, the Haftorah goes on to say that after the position of Yoshua was the name of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest who started to serve in the second temple, Hashem speaks about the ultimate reward that awaits the people if they observe his ways. And that reward is the coming of Moshiach. So after referring to securing the position of Yahushua, Joshua, who was the first high priest in the second temple, no connection, I should say, with the Joshua who's related to the story of Moshe Rabbeinu and Jericho and entering the land, just another name, Joshua. So Hashem speaks in the Haftarah about the ultimate reward that awaits the people if they observe his ways, and that reward is the arrival of Moshiach.
Right. So does this have a specific meaning for us to understand when the Moshiach will arrive to light the menorah?
Whoa, that's a good question. Well, let's look at what happened in the time of the second temple, because it didn't hang around too long. People behaved in shall we say, a disrespectful manner. For example, the position of Kohen Gadol, high priest, effectively went up for sale. And whoever bought it had an amazing year financially, but when he went in to offer to make the offerings on Yom Kippur, they had a rope tied round his waist that hung up outside. And as he walked in, because he was impure and unsuitable to make that offering,
yes,
he slumped, and that was the end of him. So he knew, whoever it was, knew that they only have that position of Kohen Gadol for a maximum of a year.
Right.
And of course, the second temple was ultimately destroyed because, amongst other things, of sinas chinam, causeless hatred, but amongst the people. And so it goes to show that the people didn't take advantage of observing Hashem's ways, and therefore Mashiach didn't come at that time. Now, a lot of people talk about Mashiach, but there's an old saying about when Mashiach will arrive. those that know don't say. Those that say don't know.
Interesting.
And the answer is we just have to keep davening every day. We look forward to the time when, through God's mercy, we will be restored to Zion and Jerusalem, and that the Mashiach will come. Exactly when, who knows, but God willing, very, very soon. And as you say, it would be quite something to see Mashiach lighting a menorah in the third Beis Hamikdash, the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi.
Yes.
Right. So just to come back to the Haftorah for a minute, Zecharia has a vision of a golden 7-branch menorah.
Yes.
Which must have been quite beautiful and inspiring. And the meaning for us is interpreted that when Mashiach arrives, just as you were asking, the job of lighting the menorah will be absolutely simple, totally straightforward, and, well, shall I say, we will live happily ever after. But let's just close with some words in the Haftorah, which are what I would suggest is a fundamental message. Hashem says like this: Lo v'chayil v'lo b'koach ki im baruchi. Not by valor or power, and not by strength, but through my spirit will things come right. So there's a phrase, Kochi v'otzim yodi, also the Zechariah, I think it is Sefer Devarim, that through everything I've done, I've achieved this and that. No, it's with God's help, it's as Hashem that things are achieved. And that's something that we can take as a lesson. So it only remains for Mark and for me to wish all of you, existing and new subscribers, existing and new viewers, a very happy, healthy, prosperous Chanukah. I would suggest that perhaps putting an extra notch on the trouser belt may make things a bit more comfortable, and don't overeat, but do enjoy it. If you would like to hear a presentation on something else, you know how to make the contact. We'd like to see likes, comments of a polite nature, and anything else you'd like us to get on with. Happy Chanukah.
Happy Chanukah.